When I turn the power on, a special transmitter attached to the headset will begin to send carefully calibrated radio waves, who will in turn begin to have sexual thoughts, which will then travel through the headset where it's converted to video. Any questions?
Will I get a Woody, sir?
The Pentagon is spending a fortune on this project, and I want to see what we're spending it on.
X-ray specs.
Prepare for phase 2 of the operation, Doctor.
The Replicator Project?
Yes, sir! I can replicate an entire platoon of ass-kicking gung-ho Marines.
Except once they get there, they turn into bimbos!
Military establishment doesn't really have a practical use for an assault force made up of genetically altered women with large breasts.
Molly.
Funny little bastard.
Boom, there you go. That was the trailer for Repligator, arriving on digital, all platforms, a special release. I'm gonna have all the information, the pack shots, everything for this amazing new release dropping on September 26th. This 98 screwball sci-fi classic is arriving for the first time ever on Blu-ray from Visual Vengeance. And as you see on the screen, I'm so delighted to have the director, Mr. Bret McCormick, with me today. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Patrick. Thanks for having me on, man.
It's a pleasure, sir. This just makes me smile, I have to tell you. As a longtime film fan, filmmaker, that kind of kicked it off with like independent films, waxing my teeth. I think the very first indie film that I worked on that was kind of similar in this vein, Trauma. I'm in the DC area, so I'm not too far from Trauma Studios. All of those guys, I worked on a couple projects with them. But there was a gentleman by the name of Tim Davis who used to do like special effects work, practical effects with America's Most Wanted, New Jack City. His name was Tim Davis. I worked on a film called Nudist Camp Zombie Massacre, which was
that sounds great.
Insane, very much in the same vein. And when I saw the trailer to this, it just rekindled my love for the past, and I can't wait to dig in and watch this, sir. How are you feeling with it now? For those, this came out in 1998. It's now going to reach an even wider audience through Visual Vengeance here in 2023, dropping on September 26th. What is your feelings with this project, again, reaching a whole new audience?
Patrick, I can't tell you how grateful I am that Rob Hochschild over at Visual Vengeance has such a passion for what he's doing, and that he has so much interest for this film. He has given it really an incredible release. The package for the fans is more than I ever could have hoped for. When we shot this film, initially, there were no recognizable names in it. We shot it over a 4-day period in Irving, Texas. And when I went on to direct some other movies right away after that, so it kind of just sat around for a while. Win Winberg over at Aries Productions, who was a commercial video director and producer, put together the footage that I had shot, and it was only 75 minutes. Back in those days, most distributors would insist on a minimum of 88 minutes, and they preferred 90. So Win liked what he saw and said, hey, why don't we hire a couple of recognizable names, shoot another 15 minutes of footage, and put together a full feature-length film. So I'm like, great, man. I would love that. He had worked with Gunnar Hansen on some sort of an educational project prior to that. So he already had Gunnar Hansen's phone number. He called Gunnar. Gunnar said, yeah. And as it turns out, I mean, we think of him as Leatherface, and there's no character in cinematic history that is less humorless than Leatherface. But Gunnar Hansen has a real gift for comedy, and he was so easy to get along with. Those scenes with Gunnar Hansen and Brinke Stevens were shot at the soundstage at Aries Productions with Win Winberg directing and his crew. And he pulled no stops in getting some really fun props and set dressing for those scenes, and it just adds immeasurably to what we already had on Repligator.
Outstanding. I love that. That's awesome. I love like tales of just projects, especially actors I grew up loving and enjoying, knowing Gunnar from Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Brinke Stevens. I'm an 80s baby. So I just love like these stories and to hear that he was, like you said, he was kind of, the most, not the guy you'd expect, because of the character he played with Leatherface, but he has such like comedic talents to just do other things. And working on I think you said when he came on board, he was working on like whatever you just said about like just something, just it wasn't like a horror film, it was something different, right? And to hear him like be in this, that's pretty cool.
Right, yeah.
With when this project came to you, I'm curious as a fellow filmmaker, like I did a lot. I was doing documentary work, I think, when I first started, and then I climbed on board an indie film project like this just to have more fun, right? That's why I came into film, because of Star Wars, like I said, 80s baby with material like yours,
Right.
That's what got me the love, that bite that made me want to do this as a profession. But you never find your way into it. You always feel like you have to be in LA. I'm here in DC, in Northern Virginia. And so I was like, I guess following the classical route, if you will, like documentary, things like this. You don't get fun stuff thrown your way with this. So I was curious if you were on that same kind of trajectory, doing like other film stuff, and then, hey, this indie project to just do really wild stuff, or were you already in that community? I'm curious if you could tell me, when this project came to you, your thoughts on Repligator, people that, are soldiers become beautiful women, and then gators. What?
Right. I was always a huge Roger Corman fan.
Love it.
And I had read that he had done 5 films in 1 year. And I thought, okay, of course, nowadays with digital, there are people doing 10 films in 1 year. It's no big deal. Back then, it seemed like a big deal. We were shooting on film, So I decided I wanted to do 5 films. At the very first part of the year, I produced a film called Takedown, which was an action martial arts movie. Then right after that, I did a movie called Time Tracers, which featured Jeffrey Combs of Reanimator fame.
Yeah.
Right after that, we did one called Biotech Warrior, which didn't have any recognizable names in it, but it was the first film I shot on 35 millimeter film, and featured a really great cyborg creature that Randy Clower here in Dallas designed for us. Right after that, we were sitting around. I had no projects I still wanted to do 2 more projects that year. So I went to Keith Jornis, who was a video editor and friend of mine, and asked him if he could write a script in a week, and we would use the leftover film stock we had from Biotech Warrior and try to shoot in 4 days, because Roger Corman had shot Little Shop of Horrors in 4 days, they said. And Keith went, well, yeah, I guess I can. What do you want it to be about? I said, whatever you want. And so he looked in one of the trade magazines, probably Hollywood Reporter, and saw that there was a movie coming out that year at the film market called Replicator with a K. And he said, you've got these rubber masks, these dinosaur masks. Let's make it Repligator. And I said, I want lots of tits, lots of silly action, lots of science fiction elements. And he and T.G. Weems wrote this script called Repligator. A week later, we started shooting, and we shot it in 4 days, which was pretty remarkable. In my experience, that was quick, okay? We're lugging around 35 millimeter cameras and stuff. It's not like, your little digital camera and you just turn around and shoot something.
Yeah.
Everyone did a really great job. We had a whole lot of fun doing it. Immediately after that, I contacted Roger Corman and told him what I was doing. I sent him my demo reel. I said, Roger, I'm trying to do 1 more film by the end of the year. This was probably the first or second week in October. He responded to me immediately and said, Bret, I'm going to have you do a movie remake a movie we did called Streets. It starred Christina Applegate. We did it a few years ago. We want you to do a version of it that takes place in Texas. So we did a movie called Rumble in the Streets, and starred Kimberly Rowe and David Quartermarsh. And my lifelong dream since I was 12 years old of making a movie for Roger Corman had come true.
Wow. I love that. That's awesome. Awesome. Man, I'm sorry. I'm such a film nerd, and try to be a professional sometimes, but just I nerd out about just stories like this, and just because this is the time period of me falling in love with cinema.
Right.
That's fantastic. So 4 days, and I can just only imagine, and I'm curious for you. So again, this is going to reach a wider audience now in 2023. All of this experience, and actually, I know one question that was immediately that I wanted to ask earlier. And again, this time period, practical effects. You said you used rubber mask because, like you said, there was Replicator. You had these gator masks, and kind of two and two led together, and we get this wildness that is a Replicator. To me, that practical effects is such an art now. Yes, CGI is cool and all that, and now we have the problems with AI that we're I don't know about you, but I'm kind of scared of in a way, especially because of Terminator,
right.
Cyberdyne, but that's another story. But, you guys did it back then, and there's just something magical about the creative art, because it is an art of filmmaking of what you guys did back then. Just maybe if you can go on practical effects a little bit, and just the fun of doing what you did in 4 days. And again, bravo to make a film in 4 days like this.
It was fun. I have a lot of respect for people who do practical effects. T.G. Weems, who co-authored the screenplay, was also a computer graphics guy. And most of what he did was for technical commercials and things like that. TG really welcomed the opportunity to do something fun. So because he had some expertise in CGI, we were able to do the girls morphing into the reptiles instead of doing a dissolve or however they would have done it in the old days. So we did have a little bit of rudimentary CGI in there, some electrical effects, like lightning streaks. That whole morphing thing was like, it was a new thing when we shot this. We shot this in 1995. So that morphing effect was still relatively new. So on this kind of a extremely low budget movie, I felt like we were fortunate to have this, what was then cutting edge effect in our movie.
Yeah, totally. What was it for you as a director to be in that, I'm kind of a control freak in ways with it when I, because to me, it's a representation of myself with whatever I'm doing. Right. To have that trust and faith with something new like this that you don't exactly know is going to translate, and you have to just trust on your team to knock it out the ballpark for what you're looking for.
I've always had a very Zen-like approach. I only work with people I like. I only work with people that I respect and feel like I can trust. So it's very easy for me when someone that I feel that way about says, I can do this, I got this. I take them at their word, and unless they prove me wrong. And typically when you trust people and you already have a good relationship with them, it generally works out, in my opinion. I think you run into a sort of totally different mindset when you're out on the West Coast, when you're in Hollywood and you're dealing with people who are deeply entrenched in the industry in Hollywood. There's a totally different mindset. Everyone acts like they're your best friend, but nobody's really your best friend. And everyone's very suspicious and hedging their bets and covering their ass. And fortunately, making movies in Dallas was a totally different story.
That's awesome. All right. So Repligator, again, everybody's coming out on September 26th from Visual Vengeance. First time ever on Blu-ray. A bunch of cool things, materials in there, some cast interviews, a lot of bonus content. Go check it out. I know I will be having some fun, bringing over some friends in my home theater and just having a ball. So this release coming, it's become a cult fave. What has been what you got reached out by like you said earlier, the Visual Vengeance team, ready to re-release it. They had love for this material. What has it been in the years since this coming out and the fandom? And maybe also, can we see more of your other projects now that you've kind of built this relationship with Visual Vengeance as well, to see those come to light?
Absolutely. Rob has expressed interest in putting out a lot of my old projects. So Time Tracers will be out for streaming. That probably on, I think it's already on Amazon. So that's got Jeffrey Combs, who was a big hit in Reanimator. So I highly recommend people watching that. Biotech Warrior is a great movie about a killer cyborg making its way across the United States. He's also releasing Highway to Hell, which is a movie about an escaped psychotic convict who's tormenting this poor woman, who he manages to get in the car with her and takes her on this terrifying drive across the countryside. He's also going to be releasing a really, really cheap thing I did a long time ago that was shot on video called Reanimator Academy. It's a very silly comedy about a frat boy who brings this head back to life, and it's got some funny moments, but it was like really, really cheap. We shot it with consumer grade video gear and shot it over the course of a weekend. So it was a very hastily and inexpensive production, but for some reason, Rob and the Video Vengeance guys think it's a cool project. They want to bring it out again. So they're going to put that out there as well. I really can't thank those people enough, because Rob is, well, the only reason he got in this business, I'm certain, is because he was always a huge fan. And he's been extremely complimentary and has treated my work with more respect than anyone else has ever done in my entire career. So I feel really fortunate. I'm very grateful for the opportunity for a new generation to see these films. And I'm really amazed when we have screenings of Replicator, the young people today who love this kind of cheesy movie. You know, it was an uphill battle a long time ago. When I first made this movie and another movie I made called The Abomination, those two movies, I got nothing but flack from the people I knew in the business, because they were like, why are you doing this? You know, why would you do a movie like this? Wait, what do you expect to do with it? And a lot of the distributors felt that way back in the time. But as time has gone by, the two most marginalized film projects that I worked on at the time have become the most popular. So I feel kind of vindicated, like trust my judgment about artistic matters like that more than perhaps I did back in the day.
I think that's absolutely beautiful. That's awesome. Yeah. I think about also some of my own productions and things I've worked on, and just, it's the crazy, wild, long nights, indie stuff that I just treasure the most. And it's just so beautiful. And it's an honor and a pleasure to speak with you, Bret, to just talk about this project coming out, reaching a wider audience, and for the rest of your project, so you can get that love and appreciation and flowers, as they call it, for all that hard work and time. Because, you know, there's so many things that are just so studio driven now. We're currently, you know, in a SAG-AFTRA strike. I'm a union guy, and there's a lot of things happening with that. And yeah, I love this. You love to see it, and I'm thankful that you're getting your props. And again, here's my flowers to you, sir. It's what helped us fall in love with cinema. And you can't even get stuff like this greenlit anymore now, right? You got to do wild stuff on your own and trust your instincts and have fun. It's the reason why we do what we do, and I love it. And it's a pleasure to speak with you, sir.
It's a pleasure being on. I really appreciate you having me on, Patrick. Definitely.
Thank you so much, Bret. Mr. McCormick. now I think as you said, you have some of these others slated to come. Shout out again to the Visual Vengeance team that they're going to make it happen. I want to, man, there was a question I had, but now it's slipping. That I wanted to ask you about. I don't want to like talk bad about the current state, but I'm curious, like now, like with what you did and the resume that you have, you know, what would be the pro tips from a filmmaker like yourself to filmmakers like myself now, and going and just doing wild shit like this, you know, because I think this is where it starts. Because then, you know, you get like you were saying earlier, you go out to Hollywood, everybody thinks you're a friend, but then they try to put you in a box and try to, you know, they take away some of that creativity. And I would just love some great words from you of just following your heart and everything you've learned in today's world. If you're, I don't know if you're still creating films, but you're giving us this one. Thank you. Just something from you in regards to just not losing that love, you know, because sometimes I could get down, and all of us could get down out here, you know, to make works that is our heart. And to me, this reminds me of that passion. And I was just curious if you could give me some words there.
Yeah, I sure can. At the time they shot the special features for Repligator, they brought a crew down from New Jersey to Dallas. And at that time, I hadn't made a film for over 25 years. I had given it up in 1996 because a couple of distributors filed bankruptcy owing me money, and I had no recourse and lost a lot of money and just was kind of burned out with the whole deal. Back then, to do a film like Repligator, I think we spent initially about $18,000, you know, which is not much money for a 35 millimeter film, but still that's a lot of money, you know. Now with the digital technology, you can shoot a movie on your cell phone. That looks great. You can edit it for free on software that you can download for free. I didn't know all of this. So when they came down, Mark Polonia was running the camera. Mark has done like, I don't know, something like 100 feature films now. Okay. He cranks them out like other people, you know, go out to eat. You know, he's like he makes 10 films a year sometimes. And I really liked Mark. He was a very nice guy. I saw some of his stuff. I saw what they were doing. And I thought, you know, I need to learn how to do this, because I knew the old way where you shot on film, transferred your film to video. It was a lot more involved process. Every step of the way was expensive. So right after they shot those special features, I began making my own student digital project, my very first digital project that I called Christmas Craft Fair Massacre. And it's a very silly, absolutely no budget movie. It's about 70 minutes long. It has some funny moments. It was a learning experience for me. I spent $350 making it, and I only spent that much because I took everyone out to eat, and I had to order some props and some costumes off of the internet. Otherwise, it was basically a for free project. Everyone was just friends and relatives who acted for free. So anyway, I learned the process. I learned how to do it. And the upside for me was that Rob over at Wild Eye said, yeah, we'll release it. So they released it last Christmas. It's available on streaming venues. I think you can even find it on YouTube. And I learned how to make a digital movie. Wow. So next month, I'm trying to do another, using what I learned, stepping it up a little bit, making a more polished project. I'm making sort of a kind of a horror film. We'll see how it turns out. But I'm retired now, so it's like a hobby for me. Yeah. And because it's become so accessible and so inexpensive, anyone can do it. And it's just something that I can work on when I have time and express myself creatively. Along with, I'm also a writer. Is it all right if I plug my book?
Please, sir. Please do.
Okay. Yeah. I've got this book that I came out with. It's called the Abomination book. It's a companion piece to the horror film that we did called The Abomination, which is being released. And I've also got one called Texas Schlock, which is a history of all the horror and science fiction movies that were done on really low budgets in Texas from the 50s on up to the present day. Both of the film books have been pretty popular with fans at conventions and stuff. And they're available on Amazon, or people can order them directly from me if they want a signed copy at texasschlock.com.
Love it. Hey, everybody, I'm going to put the links in the description below. Once you're done watching this interview, go pick up those books from Bret. And of course, head over to Visual Vengeance. It's going to be dropping on September 26th. First time ever on Blu-ray, Repligator. Bret, a pleasure to speak with you. I love that you got the energy to do it again and you're making films again. I'm now going to try and see if I can't find that horror film, Christmas horror film you said, right? That you
go on YouTube and Google it. You'll see the trailer. They did a great job on the trailer.
Awesome, man. I'm excited. Again, this just is a guilty pleasure for me. It reminds me of my start, and just it helps me get reinvigorated for why I love this craft and just the joy that filmmaking can be. Because sometimes we're on corporate projects, it isn't fun. I'll be honest, it's not fun. I work as I was kind of telling you earlier, and the people know this that watch my channel. Beyond filmmaking, I'm a former military, used to be in the Navy, and I work at the Pentagon on occasion, and I do a lot of security industrials. That's what also is kind of my bread and butter. But corporate security industrials could be a little, it isn't creative. It ain't Replicator. So to see joys like this and see Replicator where it's kind of like based on soldiers that become beautiful women, and then it's just like, I can't wait to watch this. So much fun. Bret, I could talk with you forever and just try to get old stories out of you. So whenever this next project drops, whenever your next book happens, I'd love to have you come back on to promote it and help me give you your flowers and let the people know.
Thank you, Patrick. I very much appreciate it. I like your enthusiasm. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, everybody. Bret McCormick, Repligator, September 26th. All the links are in the description below. I'm Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World.